Good evening and welcome back to Capitol Tonight, a statewide look at politics. I'm Tim Boyd. Our featured guest tonight is U.S. Representative and Republican Richard Hudson. He represents the 8th District, which mainly borders in South Carolina and the central part of the state. Friday, we had a chance to talk with him about unemployment, health care, and the Farm Bill. Here's that interview. Congressman, first of all, thank you so much. I know a TSA reform bill has passed the U.S. House of Representatives. For those that haven't heard about that, tell us about that.
Well, I'm very proud that I was able to craft legislation working with Democrats that we passed out of the Homeland Security Committee unanimously and was able to pass the House this week 416-0. And it's a bill that reforms TSA purchasing. It puts business practices in place. It'll end up saving a tremendous amount of money, and taxpayer money, and also makes us safer. And frankly, I think the American people expect us to go to Washington and work together on solutions. And here's an example of where we were able to do that. And so I'm proud that my first bill that I've taken from start to finish is now through the House, and we're working with our Democrat colleagues in the Senate, and very hopeful we can enact this law.
It sailed through the House. I mean, is it expected to get pretty good approval in the Senate then?
I think so. You know, we're talking about conservative reforms, put business practices in place to save money so that TSA operates more like a business in their purchasing. And I think it's a common sense idea that transcends party lines. And so we've had some interest from the Senate. Part of the issue is we've got to find somebody who's got the time up, and so we're meeting with folks there now and having discussions. And I feel pretty confident we can get it done.
All right, so one of the bills that hasn't got a lot of attention this year but is a huge deal is the Farm Bill. I mean, one way people will find out about it if it's not passed and dairy prices soar after the first of the year. The food stamp issue, is that really the big issue upholding a bill right now?
Well, there's two real issues that the Senate and the House are pretty far apart on. One is the SNAP program, the food stamps. In the House, we cut $40 billion we found in waste in that program. The Senate cut $4 billion in their bill, so quite a big difference of opinion there. The other issue is on crop insurance. The crop insurance program that may work out in the Midwest doesn't work as well here in the Southeast, where we have smaller fields and farmers aren't planting as many acres. And also we have hurricanes and other weather and issues that they don't have in the Midwest. And so we put some reforms in our House bill that'll address that, and we're fighting with the Senate to try and get those in. But I'm hopeful that we can resolve these differences. We've got to get a bill done. It's critical to the economy in North Carolina, and so we'll keep pushing hard.
We talked about the SNAP cuts. You said waste in the SNAP cuts. Is that based on administrative costs, or you believe that there's just too many people that qualify for the program?
Well, it's the way the program is being run. Some of the reforms that I was pushing through in particular were folks who signed people up on food stamps were getting paid incentives for the number of people they sign up. We were also spending taxpayer dollars to advertise to get people to sign up. I don't think those are appropriate. But also, if an individual qualifies for any one of the 60 welfare programs, they were being automatically enrolled. Call it categorical eligibility. They're automatically being enrolled in food stamps even if their income was too high to qualify. And so we want to eliminate that practice. Food stamps are important for the folks out there who need assistance, but I want to stop the folks who don't qualify and don't need that assistance from getting it. It's not fair to those who do need it, and so these reforms are the ones we're pushing.
So that's something we need to get done before the end of the year. Obviously, after the first of the year, there's a few big things on the plate as well, avoiding another shutdown, as well as a debt ceiling. I mean, what are you hearing about what's going on with these negotiations?
Well, nobody wants a shutdown. We didn't want the first one. We certainly don't want to go back there. And so there are budget negotiations ongoing right now. I'm hopeful we can come to an agreement. But you know, the real big issue, we've got a sequester in place where we've done across-the-board cuts. Nobody likes doing it that way. I say instead of cutting with an axe, we ought to cut with a scalpel and go in and look for waste and duplication. And so everyone wants to replace those sequester cuts. But Tim, for the first time since the Korean War, the last 2 years, we've had real cuts in spending in the federal government. And I'm not willing to give that up. And so what the conservatives in Congress hope we can do is replace the sequester with entitlement reform. so that we can bend the cost curve on Social Security and Medicare, shore up those programs, gets us the same amount of cuts in the short term, but it's going to give us a much greater long-term benefit. And so I'm hopeful we can come to some agreement there that we can replace that sequester, but still do some meaningful spending reform.
That seems like a monumental task, though, to take on those reforms like that over the next month or so. I mean, is it likely that we're going to see another short-term deal done and then try to agree to work on a longer-term deal, keeping in mind it's an election year?
Right. Well, it's very possible. You mentioned, for example, the Farm Bill. We go back to 1948 dairy policy if we don't get it done by the end of the year. I think if we can't do it in the next week or so, we may see a short-term extension there. That's true with our budget. There's a lot of us in the House that think a short-term CR that gets us off the brinksmanship and gives us more time to negotiate would be better than a bad deal or than a shutdown. And so we'll see how that plays out over the next week.
All right, one last topic here. We saw that unemployment is down to 7% now. It's a 5-year low. What do you attribute that to?
Well, it's people that have given up. You go out here in the 8th District in Charlotte or Concord or Wadesboro and talk to people on the streets, things aren't really getting a whole lot better. But what's happening is people are taking part-time jobs when they want full-time work. They're taking jobs that aren't necessarily what they want to be doing right now or what's in their career field because they need work. Or you've got people who've just given up and stopped looking. And that's why you're seeing that statistic go down. But the truth is our economy is still suffering, and we've got a lot of work to do to create jobs in this country.
But some of the job gains were broader, I guess, not just service industry. I mean, you don't see any glimmer of hope in this latest report?
Well, there's always hope, but you know, I come home every weekend and travel in my district and talk to folks, and what I hear from employers is they're not hiring right now because there's so much uncertainty, whether it's what are the health care costs going to be this year, whether it's regulatory overreach. There's a lot of uncertainty out there still, and frankly, I want to get the federal government out of the way so we can start a real hiring boom and really start putting people back to work in a meaningful way.
All right, Representative Hudson, thank you so much for your time. Always good to see you, sir.
Absolutely, Tim. Thank you.